Well, thank you so much for being here. Again, thank you for your patience. My name is Sandra Hewson, and I have been lucky enough to be the admissions director at Eaton Arrrowsmith for the past 15 years. So, people will often say, well, if you've got a question, ask Sandra because she's seen it all. That's how I feel. And I've been really, really fortunate to be here and see, we were just counting actually the other day, over 1,600 students between the ages of 6 and 82 come through our schools, which has really been fantastic. All, connected to families who have a real passion and curiosity for enabling themselves or their children, their loved ones, to really get to the root of learning difficulties, to boost their capacity for learning, and to not circumnavigate learning weaknesses, because you can actually target and strengthen brain networks so that you can really start to remove some of those barriers that have held ourselves or our students back from truly, reaching their potential in life independently and happily. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm really excited to do our very first question and answer. And tonight we're going to focus on our online programs, which gives me really quite a great deal of excitement. There certainly has been, despite all of the, the scary and the tough times of this COVID-19 season that we're in, it did bring about a real silver lining for students around the world. For the past 15 years, truly, I've had people say to me, well, sounds like a fantastic program, and we very much want to help those that we know get to the root of learning difficulties, but we live nowhere near your school. We can't move there. And our schools, if you don't know, are located in Vancouver, BC, White Rock, BC, and in Redmond, Washington. So we've got 2 in Canada and 1 in the United States. The Arrrowsmith program itself is in over 100 schools around the world. But that did pose a real challenge for families who didn't live near an Arrrowsmith school. And certainly, if you think about relocating a family, that's no small feat. So, sometimes that silver lining comes mid-March when we were all instructed by our governments to stay and shelter in place and be at home and keep our loved ones safe. We very quickly had to shift gears and enable the Arrrowsmith program, which we do use and was developed by a wonderful woman named Barbara Arrowsmith Young back in the 80s. We needed to adapt those programs so that they were available and accessible online. So our students at our 3 brick and mortar schools quickly adapted, and we thought, well, how is this going to pan out? Are they going to be successful online? Will this be confusing for them? How will that turn out? And I actually had the good fortune of having my own little guinea pig at home. My son is enrolled in our full-time program at Eaton Arrrowsmith in Vancouver. So I got to watch him transition very successfully and smoothly to our online programs. And after watching our students for about a month, we started to think, wow, there's real potential here for all of those families who have wondered about how they too could access this program for their child or for themselves. And so we started to create online only programs. And as a result, we now have a branch of Eaton Arrrowsmith called Eaton Arrrowsmith School Online. And in a little bit, I'll explain our programs. You can always reach me. I always forget to tell people this. I really do want you to reach me. I'll write it in the chat in a little bit. But at admissions@eatonarrowsmith.com. And we also have an online programs page on our website. If you were to go to www.eatonarrowsmith.com, you can find our programs there, and we'll certainly follow up. One other piece I forgot to mention is, so that you don't feel you have to take a bunch of notes if you're trying to remember what I'm saying. I know I would have a hard time remembering everything I'm saying. We are recording this session, and we'll be happy to send it out to you afterwards so that you can review it. So when we started to create our programs, we thought, well, what would be the most beneficial for the widest variety of people? And it came down to 3 specific programs. There's one that is 8 weeks in length, and we call that our at-home cognitive intensive program. We run it quite frequently in the summer months, but also do have it on offer throughout the school year. And that program was actually started about 6 years ago now, and it as did all of our programs, they initiated in an in-school classroom. but we did, and we still do offer in-school cognitive intensive programs, but we thought we're going to switch this to an online program, and it will be 8 weeks in length. So if you are on that web page that I'll send you the link afterwards, you'll see that it is essentially a year's worth of a particular cognitive exercise that we call symbol relations. And that exercise is such a powerful way to strengthen the brain networks that are really responsible for your ability to make connections, to reason, to process information, and to do it quickly. Because so many people will come and say, you know, I understand concepts, I'm understanding the world, but it takes me more time. I feel like I'm in lag time or just a little bit behind the curve. And that's very frustrating in school. And whether you're, you know, a young child or you're an adult, we once had a law student actually physically move from Australia to be with us so that she could spend a whole year working on that one particular exercise to target and really strengthen that processing speed of hers, because she would find that it would take her 5 hours every night to get through the same material that her colleagues and her peers were getting through in 1 hour. So she thought, you know, I'm 21 years old. I'd like to be out with my friends sometimes and not just at home, you know, hitting the books every single night. And so she came, targeted that particular brain network and strengthened her capacity to process information more quickly. She was already great at reasoning. She'd made her way into law school. And it really does bring up the point that having a learning difficulty and getting to the root of it really has nothing to do with your intelligence. You can be a very, very intelligent person and still struggle to some degree, either socially or academically, with your executive function or your ability to really navigate the world independently without having to rely on others. And so, you know, people will come to us and say, is there a way that we can do this in a shorter amount of time? And rather than coming for an entire year or, you know, number of years. And so the 8-week cognitive intensive program is the way to really do that and to have a good introduction to the Arrrowsmith program. That program, like our other two, is done and is arranged as a virtual classroom. You know, looking at our students when they transition to online programs, we realize that, you know, it's not going to work well if we said, here are your assignments on Monday, we'll check in on you on Friday and, you know, hope for the best, hope that you've done your work. We need to be with our students minute to minute. And so, for example, our students in the 8-week cognitive intensive program will be connected to a group of 7 to 10 other students along with an instructor and a teaching assistant through the Microsoft Teams platform. So they'll log in, they'll see the students and the teacher online initially, have a good connection time at the beginning of the class, and then very quickly move into their own cognitive channel, so to speak, or classroom. So they've got their own, you know, private classroom there, each one of them. So they're not, you know, they're never in a situation where they're having to compare themselves with others or feel like they have to do something perfectly. But that teacher is still very closely connected to the students. And this was another really, you know, beneficial piece of the Arrrowsmith program that evolved actually about 2 or 3 years ago, where Arrrowsmith's data collection became cloud-based. So even though our teachers have been at home or they've been isolated in the classroom and students have been joining us from all over the world, minute to minute, they can see every single keystroke that our students will make, every piece of progress in terms of the accuracy, the speed, the engagement. You can tell, and I remember a couple of months ago, my son's teacher sent him a little message and said, this piece of work should have taken you 2 minutes and it seems to have taken you 10. What exactly is going on there? So there's no falling through the cracks at all with our teachers. And for the first time in their lives, a lot of our students feel very, you know, held up, buoyed up, accountable for their actions. And they also know that they can really do it, because every single goal that is set for them by the Arrrowsmith program is set just slightly above their current capacity, so that when a manageable goal is set, it can be achieved. That doesn't mean that achievement happens without a great deal of hard work. Physically changing your brain's capacity for learning is no easy task. Otherwise, we'd all do it in a day and call it a day. But Instead, our students work hard, they are proud of their achievements, and with an online program, what is really nice is family members can see this achievement in real time as well. It's not like being in a classroom and getting a message from your teacher saying, oh, so-and-so was able to do this today, sorry you missed it. You know, the parent can be there, or the family member can be there to cheer that student on, to have a really close relationship with the teacher, and really just be very supportive. We're often asked, well, you know, as a parent or a caregiver, do I have to sit there and do the work with my child or with the person who's here in my house doing this Arrrowsmith program? And the answer is no. We know that family members have often are trying to work from home as well, or they've got other responsibilities. Your big job as someone who is a cheerleader for an Arrrowsmith student at Eaton Arrowsmith School Online is to get them to the chair, to feed them well, to make sure they're, you know, well watered, so to speak, that they get exercise and good sleep, so that they're ready and at their prime when they're starting with us. And after that, we take it from there. The teachers will give weekly feedback, even more if you ask for it. I said to one mom, I said, you can be that parent, it's okay, that emails every day and says, so what did my child do today? And we'll have an answer for you. So that's how much data collection happens. Midway through the at-home cognitive intensive program, you'll receive a very detailed report that looks at everything from engagement level to how much a certain student has done, their speed of understanding, their accuracy, so that you know in real time what kind of changes can be expected. And it's been really interesting. We just this past Friday finished up with one of our first at-home cognitive intensive programs. And so the feedback is starting to roll in, which we know what families will find, but it's always nice when families find it themselves. I remember one of our moms emailed and said, you know, my daughter has always played the guitar very well, but it's been very hard for her to explain sequentially what happens when she makes a mistake. She would just get kind of flustered and say, oh, I don't know, we'll just move on. And a couple of weeks ago, she was playing the guitar and she did make a mistake, and she stopped and completely sequentially gave this long explanation of what had happened. And she stopped herself and had big wide eyes and talked to her mom and said, oh, I've never done that before. And her mom, you know, had the same reaction back. And so it's these little subtle changes where you think, okay, so how does working on a brain exercise actually transition into real life? But then you start to see changes that you never have seen before, no matter how old the child has got or how much they've matured over time as an adult. Because remember, this particular exercise is working on strengthening your ability to make connections, to reason, to process information, and to do so in real time. So you do see changes in things like sequence of speech, in reading comprehension, in math problem solving, in navigating the social world, in being able to navigate in terms of planning your time, organizing yourself. So it's a very, very positive program to work through. This being said, with this particular program, keep in mind that it is a year's worth of exposure to the symbol relations exercise. So as opposed to one of our other models, and I'll talk about that in a second, students, depending on their age, between the age of 10 to 14, they are working on 3 45-minute blocks of the symbol relations exercise. And if you're older than that, and like I've said, we've had someone all the way up to the age of 82, and we're happy to accept students older than that as well. So no age barrier there. We can all change our brains at any age. Those adults, so to speak, they do an extra 1 hour of cognitive homework, so to speak. And a lot of people will ask, well, so what does cognitive mean? What is symbol relations all about? And essentially what the fantastic Barbara Arrrowsmith-Young, the founder of this program, she first developed this exercise for herself, you know, over 40 years ago now. And she had done a lot of research looking at the fact that the parts of the brain that light up when you are trying to reason, when you are trying to process information, when you do that, it's the same areas that light up when you are trying to read an analog clock. So students work on, and we nickname it clocks. You work on an analog clock starting at 2 hands and moving your way up. Even some of our students get up to levels of 8 and 10-handed clocks. And you might think, well, why would you ever need to do that? 2 hands is pretty sufficient when you're telling time on your wrist. But if you think about, well, I think about me even trying to get Zoom working today, which many of my colleagues can attest is no easy task for me. That was definitely a 6 or an 8-handed clock, meaning that I had to hold on to all of those pieces of information and figure out how they connected together, and to do that in real time so that you wouldn't be too impatient with me waiting. So that's what we all have to be able to do in life. And for some of us, if that particular brain network is weaker, it's much harder to do so, or we need a lot more time. So that is why if someone joins us for an 8-week cognitive intensive program, we always start with the symbol relations exercise, because it can just help us in so many different facets of our lives. But there are other Arrrowsmith program exercises as well. And so one of the other programs that we do offer, and we'll be offering this starting in the fall, is called the At-Home Half-Day Program. And a lot of times families who have been with us through the 8-week cognitive intensive program, especially around about the halfway mark, they'll start to email me and say, I want more. This has been a really great start, and I'm seeing changes, and I'm so excited that we're finally getting to the root of some of these cognitive challenges that I've lived with forever, or I've watched my child struggle with, or I've always wanted to boost in but never had the time to really address. What else do you offer? So what we offer in an at-home half-day program is the ability to work on 4 different Arrrowsmith program exercises. So they all complement each other. Which 4? It really depends on who you are, because we all have, just as we all look different, act differently, we all have very unique brains. So part of the tuition for the at-home part-time program, or sorry, the at-home half-day program is a full Arrrowsmith program assessment. This is not a psychoeducational assessment. It is not used to diagnose a learning difficulty. It is specific to the Arrrowsmith program. So students would work with us for generally about 2 half days, looking at all 19 potential exercises they could work on with us. And then with the support of Arrrowsmith program out of Toronto, Canada, we also create together a program of exercises. More often than not, that symbol relations exercise will be one of the 4, because it is so important, unless for some reason, and it does happen from time to time, that in an 8-week intensive program, you complete all of your work on that exercise and no longer need to work on it any longer. And that's determined by observations of the teacher, data collection as well, that is of course shared with family members. So it may well be symbol relations, and then 3 of the other top exercises that a student may need. Generally, exercises that have a link to executive functioning and attention control and processing speed and working memory are chosen. And a student would work on those exercises, again in a virtual classroom through Microsoft Teams, for the course of a school year. So I'm talking to you from Vancouver. Our programs are all run off of Pacific time. We do have different class times though available, because we know that people from all over the world are interested in us. Just as an aside, about 5 years ago in our actual school in Vancouver, almost half of the students had come to us from Australia and from New Zealand. So big shout out for any Australians or Kiwis that are watching right now. So we know that this program is of interest internationally, so we wanted to devise our class times so that people all over the world would really be able to benefit and connect with us. So a student would be working on his or her cognitive exercises in that at-home half-day program for 4 cognitive time periods of about 45 minutes each. We will promote classroom culture. We're often asked, well, how do you create a social environment if students are just online? But in all of our programs, we do have an opportunity for parents to get together, to connect. We do parent education with them so that they can understand what it is that we talk about when we say, oh, give, a big cheer to your child because he or she just mastered, this particular level, which means they basically saturated a brain area and are ready to stimulate it further to continue that brain network growth. So students would do that for the course of a school year with us. The calendar for those programs is online as well. And And in general, students are with us. We take it year by year, but you should always keep in the back of your mind, and you probably know this already, that our brains do not change quickly. We need to give it a particular area a dosage, so to speak, an amount of stimulation that is just slightly above a student's current capacity for them to really start to grow and to change. And we've really had the good fortune over the past 7 years now to work quite closely with neuroscientists, both at University of British Columbia and also the University of Southern Illinois. We've worked with Dr. Lara Boyd, Dr. Kim Schonert-Reichel, Dr. Rachel Weber, and Dr. Gregory Rose, who have actually done peer-reviewed research on our programs, and happy to send you a link to the research after as well. We'll put that in the chat. And they've compared not only our year-long programs, but also our cognitive intensive programs, and found statistically significant changes in everything from working memory to processing speed to reasoning, and academically in areas of reading comprehension, reading fluency, or how fast you're able to read, your ability to express yourself, also attention control, and also, and very importantly, especially as we get older, a concept called saliency determination. Because I don't know about you, but for me, there's so many different pieces of information that I could pay attention to, but what is actually the best use of my time? And a lot of us get very overwhelmed trying to figure out where to start, what to do next, and we end up just shutting down out of anxiety. So to have a brain that is more efficient is less hyper-connected, which means that, you know, some of our strengths are really trying to carry the load for some of our weaker areas. The researchers have found that overall our brain is, you know, more equally connected, less hyper-connected areas, and more evenly connected brain networks, so that you're able to move through life with a lot less fatigue, a lot greater ease, and a lot greater confidence. Dr. Kim Schonert-Reichel also did some assessments looking at happiness levels, confidence levels, self-concept levels, and found that contrary to what happens with most students over the course of a school year, our students, you know, well-being and measures of well-being increased over time as opposed to the converse, which we could have told them, but it's always nice to have that, you know, really shown for them in research as well. So all of that is available online for you to review. So that is the at-home half-day program. And then we have one final one, because not everyone is available to join us for half a day. A lot of families would prefer for their children to be, you know, in a brick and mortar school and to just touch base with us once a day. And so we have a program called the at-home part-time program that is 1 hour a day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So from Monday to Thursday, students are working for 1 hour with us on one particular cognitive exercise. And more often than not, if we only have that amount of time, and you might have guessed which exercise we'll pick on, if we just have that amount of time, I feel like I should unmute you all and you'll know the answer, but it's symbol relations. So we'd start with that exercise, and it also provides a nice way for students who are just not, you know, connected in a way, or you know, ready developmentally to be able to withstand the amount of repetition that has to happen in an 8-week program. Because in 8 weeks, you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot of clocks, you're seeing a lot of clock faces, and so you just have to be ready for that. You have to be an independent learner. You have to be one that has some math prerequisites behind you. You have to be somewhat familiar with typing. But in a part-time presentation, you're easing into this. You don't have to hit the ground running, so to speak, quite as fast. And so there are, you know, we're a good match for a number of different kinds of learners this way. Again, a virtual classroom is offered, so our students, no matter their age, would meet with us once a day. We have some class sessions that are available after school. And this year, because this is a new presentation model, we've actually got some classes that are available during school time, so that, you know, depending on the school and depending on the teacher, a student could theoretically take his or her laptop, move to a quiet room, log in with us for that period of time, that hour, and then and we'll take good care of him or her there, and then afterwards they'd go back to their classroom and carry on with the day. So that saves the need to, one, to travel to our school after school. If, you know, for some of our local families, they would have been traveling even across the city. And, you know, that adds up in terms of commute and just time spent in that car or what have you on the bus. And so now they're able to, you know, theoretically do that during the day and not have to think about an after school program. But we do have an after school option available, of course. So that part-time program, again, you'd receive documented progress along the way. Students, if they do finish that cognitive exercise called symbol relations, which could take a year, it could take 2 years, then they do receive a full programming assessment to look at what's next in the lineup. And, you know, I don't think I'm all that unique in terms of the fact that I would benefit from a lot of different exercises as well. I don't want to speak for all of you, but I think you'd need it too, right? None of us have an easy time with absolutely everything that we do. There's always, you know, little barriers that have held us back throughout our lives. And for me, I have worked on the symbol relations exercise for 2 years. Proud to say I've got to the 6-handed clock level. Perhaps I needed to get to 8 to understand Zoom, but we'll let that one pass. But I would love to work on strengthening some of my spatial capacities. I once told a logging truck when they asked me, you know, which way they should turn, the completely opposite way. So I know that a block down the road, somebody was not saying kind words as they had to turn that thing around. So, you know, there's always pieces that are sort of in the back of our mind where we think, oh, it would be great if this wasn't such a barrier for me. And so, you know, any one of our programs would be a great boost for that. And then there's others that we know that really are struggling in school, despite their great creativity, you know, their joy for life, their determination. And so maybe a half-day program or to ease into a part-time program, you know, could well be a really perfect start. So yes, those are our 3 at-home programs. We have dates available on our website. We're always adding more dates. We really thrive off of the feedback of our families and continue to improve our programs. All of our teachers are certified Arrrowsmith program teachers, also have worked and had experience with our students in the past. And beyond their actual credentials, they are just, you know, 1,000% wonderful human beings who see this as far more than a job. They are so passionate about what they do, and they're not allowed to join us unless they are. So they really, really thrive on helping students become their very best selves, and we're very proud to have them as part of our team. So I think that is pretty much it for me in terms of talking. Thank you for listening and for smiling. I see you there. I will look in the chat and see, and you can all bear with me as I navigate chat. And I'm told I need to read out the questions so that you know exactly what I'm reading right now, although I think you can read them too. So I'll ask you to stay muted. We won't have a conversation that way. I'll just read from the chat and answer. But what I would love to do, my very favorite thing to do, is to have one-on-one conversations with families or with interested people. And so certainly, where I know it says down there in the chat that you can reach me at admissions@eatonarrowsmith.com or phone us at 604-264, and it should be 8327 actually. So I'll ask Chris if you don't mind writing again and fixing our phone number there. That would be great. So 604-264-8327. We can set up a time to meet really individually, because I know all of your questions a lot of times are quite personal and very specific to a particular family member or to yourselves. So we would be best to talk personally that way. So let me go to the chat. Okay, so Amanda is asking, how exactly does it work? How does the program change someone's brain? That's a really great question. So if you think about anything that you do, our brain is always listening, so to speak. And the more you focus your attention on a particular task over time at a level that is just slightly above your current challenge level, you have to find that sweet spot. If something is too hard or too easy, nothing happens in terms of new neural connections being formed. But if you're working on a task that is just slightly above your capacity, repetitively and over time, then scientists actually see new connections moving from one neuron to the other. And the more densely connected a particular brain network is, the more information can be passed through and in a more quick and efficient manner. Another one of the changes that the researchers found was an increase in myelination. And myelin, if you're not quite sure what it is, and certainly I'm no scientist, but it is the fatty coating or the sheath that surrounds or encoats the connections between the neurons. And the more myelin we have, the quicker the conductivity is, and the more quickly we can understand what it is that we're learning. It's often been equated to higher intelligence, and we're so excited to see in all of the research that was performed, especially that happened at the University of British Columbia. We had real myelin water experts, and don't ask me to go into exactly how that worked, but we saw increases in myelin in our students as well. So it's been fascinating to watch how that transfers. And a lot of people will say, well, why are you using clocks, or why are you using exercises that really look nothing like school? If you were ever to visit, our classrooms, you'd see students, about a third of them working on computer exercises, a third on with headphones on, listening to auditory material, another third tracing shapes or trying to remember pieces of a picture. It seems not like school at all, but this is the beauty of this program, is that we're not allowing our students to use any kind of strength to compensate their way around their weakness. They're actually targeting the weak area, driving right into it and growing it. So that they can be independently using that area in the future. And I had a conversation with a dad the other day, and he had told me that his son plays soccer. And he said he was trying to understand this concept. And I said, well, you really have two choices. If you really want your son to play, higher level soccer and to keep playing soccer, you can strap on that knee brace if his knee is giving him trouble, and he can keep playing. But how much better is he going to get if there's still that impediment there? It's going to be a challenge. And how does he feel about himself when he knows that the only reason he's able to keep playing is because of that knee brace? How would it be different if we took some time away from soccer for him to strengthen all of the muscles around his knee so that he can grow the strength of that knee, so that when he then returns to soccer, he's able to do so, to play at such a higher level than he was before and to continue to grow. That's exactly the same way that we're approaching working with our students at Eaton Arrowsmith, that they're targeting strengthening the capacity and not doing it through a typical academic curriculum. The academics to us is almost like the water that you'd pour into a basket. And we often use an analogy of students coming to us with a loosely woven cognitive basket, so to speak, where, very well-meaning expert teachers are trying to fill that basket all the time, or parents who are working with their children at home, or adults who are working with tutors, or just trying really, really hard, but it's almost like that water is trickling through. But what happens if you tighten the weave on that basket? The water is then able to stay, or the concepts are able to stick. And so you have now gained control over your learning, as opposed to having to rely on someone else to sort of plug up those holes. So hope that answers your question, Amanda. I have one from Ken that says, interested to know high school degree. And I bet I know what you're talking about here. So, and you can write to me in the chat, Ken, if I don't have it correct, but a lot of times families will ask, well, if you're taking time to do Arrowsmith program exercises, then how can you graduate from high school? Because this certainly doesn't look like a credit or a course that, a person has seen before. And certainly with us, any student who's under grade 9 or 9th grade, depending on where, or near 9, depending on where you're listening from, that age and younger, it really does not matter in terms of the government if students are with us say they're with us for 3 to 4 years, which is the time span for a more of a fuller time program, or that half-day program that I spoke of. It takes that amount of time to really strengthen all brain capacities that are weaker. Of course, it depends on the severity of that particular weakness, and that's something that we address through that programming assessment. But if they're returning to school prior to grade 10, then they're able to go back in the same year with their peers. So for example, my son joined our school in grade 2. He's now grade 3, he'll be grade 4 next year, and then he'll go into grade 5. So with his peers. And the way that you can do that, and not, often people will say, but they've missed all those academic subjects. But if you've grown your capacity to learn the actual subjects, they were never the issue in the first place. It was always being able to access them. If you can't reason very successfully, it sure is hard to do fractions. You can sit there in the class and be taught it and nod and smile, or, sort of get a part of it or understand a part of it. But how succinctly do you really have that information solidified in your long-term memory? And so by strengthening those capacities, when children or adults, going back into college or university after having maybe tried and not been successful, they're fully able to grasp those concepts and move along. If you are older than 9th grade, then there's different paths that happen, and life can certainly look a little bit different than it might for those of you who grew up similarly to me, where I went to an elementary school, I went to a high school, graduated, and went on to a university. There's different paths towards graduation now. So a number of our students will work on a half-day program with us, take some distance education courses online at the same time, and we're happy to provide links to academic providers. And then they will transition on. It may well take them an extra term, an extra year to graduate from high school, but students do so knowing that they are going to be far more successful moving forward than they would have as if they were just passed through the classes, which is feedback we often receive from families, that I feel like my child is just being passed through school and not really fully grasping. So that kind of a graduation doesn't feel quite as solid and as strong and as promising for the future of that student as it does if you're then graduating knowing that your cognitive capacities are really strong enough to handle anything that comes your way. So next question is from Jan. Hi, Sandra, do you have any statistics or anecdotal information regarding doing one exercise at a time, the part-time program versus 4 exercises half-day program? Good question. Thank you, Jan. So if you're working on a part-time program, you're working on one particular cognitive exercise for the course of pretty much a school year. And like I said, we always start with the symbol relations exercise because it is the most far-reaching exercise in terms of benefits that you see. But, and you will certainly see changes in that area and everything that it's responsible for. But of course, if you are going to work on 4 cognitive exercises that are uniquely designed for your particular needs, you are going to notice more progress in more areas more quickly. So, if I always say to families, if it was my choice and it was my perfect world and I can control your family, your finances, your time, I would of course say, do as much as you can, do it as early as you can. That being said, there's no wrong time and no too late time as well. But yes, Jan, the half-day program is going to be more comprehensive than working, year by year on a particular exercise in that part-time program. Some families, though, that's what they prefer to do. I know we've had students at our actual brick and mortar schools who have worked on a part-time program, moving through exercises over the course of about 7 or 8 years. But for a lot of families, they'll think, well, it might be more efficient if we take, 2-3 years out of our child's life to really target this now so that they can very successfully transition back into a full academic, curriculum program after that, not needing to come back. Because once you strengthen those brain areas, you don't need to come back. As much as we'll miss our students when they go, you don't need to come back and carry on. You now will have the cognitive capacity to be able to process that information, or to reason your way through situations, or to plan, to problem solve, to express yourself in writing. That's one piece that a number of our students really work on as well. So once you've got that taste of independence and you can successfully, reach your potential, then you don't need us anymore. That's what I always say to kids. As much as we love you, we want you gone and moved on, and just come back and tell us about your successes after that. So Jan, I hope that answers your question. And the next one, how do you measure the result of the program? Very good question. So one thing you'll have to get used to if you work with us is a lot of data. We collect data on every single keystroke on that computer. Our teachers see it in real time. This is just my phone, but you can imagine it be a tablet. The teachers are at home. Students' names are there. the exercises that they're working on, the levels they're working on. The Arrowsmith program benchmark standards are there. The amount of engagement is there as well, so that you can track that and know, okay, you'll never hear from us, oh, it seems like, you know, so-and-so has fallen through the cracks. It's not possible. We are able to see in real time, you know, to compare progress and then to devise solutions if it seems like a student is struggling in a particular area or is exceeding in a particular area. We always want them in that little sweet spot moving forward. So the results are measured on a, you know, a year-to-year scale by that programming assessment in the half-day program that is initiated just before school starts or at the very beginning of school, and then at the end of the year as well. That's our global measure of a year's worth of change. And then, like I said, every single 45-minute block of time, there's a goal set, and then a student's achievement is measured against that at the end of that time. At the end of every week, there's you know, weekly updates from the teachers. At the end of the month, there's a progress report as well. So, and it varies program to program. The exact timing is when you receive these reports, but you will get more data than you know what to do with. There's a lot of it, which is really comforting. I know for me, you know, I was so fortunate to, I mean, yes, I work at the school with these wonderful teachers, but, you know, to just send my son's teachers an email and say, so, you know, how is he doing in this particular area? Because we had set, and you know, sometimes you need some incentives to do things that are globally really great for you, especially when, in my case, when you're dealing with a 9-year-old little boy. And so, you know, the teacher would say, oh, he's made great progress today, give him 3 signatures, because we had a little chart and we were working towards, you know, a little incentive that he really wanted. And or other days, oh, it looks like this particular area has been more of a struggle. We're doing this on our end. This is our action plan. This is how you can help at home. So for many families, they haven't had that kind of a connection with a teacher before. And so they're very grateful for it. I know certainly I am when it comes to my son as well. So I hope that answers that question. Thank you, Chris, for changing the number. Another question from Ken. Also key for us is an online facilitator so that our son knows he is responsible for sitting down at a certain time each day for his class. Does Arrowsmith provide, I assume you mean a facilitator like that? Absolutely. This program would not be effective otherwise. So there is no way that we could just say, hi, it's Monday, let's have a little chat. Here you go. We'll see you on Friday. No way. My son would not have been able to do that. Neither would my daughter, who did our cognitive intensive program last summer. Every single minute that teacher is there. So imagine that you were all my students. Hello, students. We would be meeting together. I would be your teacher. We'd take about the first 10 minutes to connect. How was your weekend? How was the day? Often, depending on the age of the student, the teachers will do something like gold stars, where they'll talk about the successes of each of the children. The kids get very good at having what we call a growth mindset, or really embracing the fact that you're going to make mistakes along the way. That's how the brain changes. If you get perfection every single time, kind of a waste of time. You're not changing at all. So for a lot of our students that come with anxiety that has built up over the years because they've had to try to save face or pretend that everything's just fine, we talk very openly about that if you're not making mistakes, your brain isn't changing, you're not learning. So we celebrate that. We of course celebrate their achievements, their masteries, we call it, when they're moving on to the next level as well. So we'll talk about that at the beginning of the class. And then very quickly afterwards, each of you would move into your own separate little breakout room. I can't say you can really decorate it all that well online. Can't look too fancy, but you'll be in your little room. You'll be logged into the Arrowsmith program. So you'll see your program on the screen. And then that teacher spends his or her time moving from each to the other. So I'm just going to use, I'll pretend, one of my students there. Well, why don't I'll take Ken, because you asked the question. Ken, I'll pop up to you and say, oh, how's it going? Looks like I'm looking at my tablet. I'm looking at your data from yesterday. Right on track. Way to go, Ken. And, this is our goal that we're going to work on today. So at the end of, 40 minutes, this is where I'd expect you to be. And then I'll say, see you later for a couple of minutes, and I'll move on to my next student. and pop up and look. I'll say, oh, look at that. Wow, you're just about ready to move to the next level. Okay, let's take some time now for me to teach you the next concept, and we'll work together. We'll share our screens, and then you've got it. Awesome. Okay, bye-bye to you. Pop up to the next person, and then I'll look at my tablet and look back at my friend Ken there. Ken, he should have been done that by now. Where is my friend Ken? And so I'll go back and see Ken's empty chair and think, maybe I'll send, Ken's mom a little text. What's going on with Ken? Remember, it's still work time now. And, then we'll get Ken back online. Or it might be just that, Ken is really working hard at one particular area and it's just taking a little bit longer. That's totally fine. I hope you're okay with me using you as my star student, Ken. But that's how the program will work. So you're never alone. You might be working independently, but someone is watching you every single time, and not to scrutinize or criticize you at all. It's always very supportive, very much celebratory, because we all wish for our students to strengthen those capacities so that they no longer have to rely on compensations or additional support. We want them to be independent, passionate, happy learners reaching for their potential. So, it's not always easy to do it. We'll have days where our students will say, oh, I'm tired. This is hard work. Yep, it is. And for some of them, it's the first time they've really been expected to work very hard as well. Because a lot of times, just out of our own good nature, if we see someone struggling, we try to make it easier for them, or we try to give them less, or we diminish our expectations. But truthfully, we're not really doing them any favors by doing that. So by showing them that we believe in them, that we know that they can reach this particular goal, and setting it so it is reasonable, we're showing them respect, and we're showing them that they have great potential for the future. There will be ups and downs. I know if, I'm always happy to connect you with, some of our current families or families who have experienced these programs with us in the past, and they'll tell you that there's ups and downs. There's times of the year when students are totally engaged and ready to go. Other times where, it's a little bit harder for them to get the work done. I'll never sugarcoat that with anybody. But in the end, students always come out. There's never one student who's ever come back to us and said, that was a waste of time, or that didn't do anything. Their advice always for students who are currently in the program is really embrace this opportunity you've been given. Work as hard as you can. Take the feedback that you get from your teachers and apply it. Really take those, celebratory hugs and celebrations that your family members will give you, because this really is a life-changing opportunity. And I know sometimes we throw those kind of words around, but I promise you I wouldn't say it if I hadn't seen it over the past 15 years working with our students. So Ken, I hope that helps answer that question. And then we've got, if you determine the program is not working for the child during the Midway program, what changes do you make in relation to that? So I hope I've answered that a little bit in terms of us really staying with the student minute to minute and watching the data come in. We're always able to work with family members. We're always able to tailor the program so that a student has every chance of being successful. But in terms of it not working, truthfully, we don't see that. This is why, one of my roles in admissions is to really have frank conversations with families about what our programs are all about, where they are at, if it's an adult, where their children are at in terms of their readiness for something like this, their capacity for engaging in it at this time. Sometimes we're just not a fit at that particular time. It doesn't mean we will never be a fit, but I'll often recommend other programs that are based in neuroplasticity, or the brain's ability to change when specifically stimulated over time, before an Arrrowsmith program. That might be a possibility. I'm not afraid to do that. If that's a better fit for a child or an adult at a particular time, then all the better for them. But we end up seeing families, a few years down the road, and then we can carry on our conversation and look at enrollment. So by the time a student is enrolled, we have a really good idea that they would be a fit for our programs and we'd be a fit for them. So that's that one. And then we've got Jacinta. Oh, hello. My son is having symbol relations, has been working on the symbol relations exercise for 10 weeks and currently in the 6th week. I saw amazing changes. However, does this half-day program can it not be integrated with homeschool? Absolutely, it can be. So some of our half-day families for the fall are planning on working with an online provider to do some distance education or some academic work. Others are working with their child's current school so that they're half day with them and half day with us. There's lots of possibilities, and this is why we're so excited to offer online now, because certainly a lot more possibilities than if a child had to travel to the school. Pia asks, how flexible are the programs? Do we have to stick to the schedule? So back to Ken's question about, is this a program where my child is going to be connected to someone or not? You're going to get the most benefit if you stay with the class, because that's when the teacher is there. Absolutely. So it's a virtual classroom. But, I had a question today. Well, we're going on holiday for 2 days. What should we do about that? Well, one, because, let's say that intensive program is 3 45-minute blocks or maximum of 4 if you're an adult, there is that opportunity, as long as you've got a good internet connection, to really work before you maybe have some fun on your vacation. But if you just, can't make that happen, this is an online program. And as long as you're not at a place within your exercise where the teacher is needing to teach you a particular concept, then you can log in and you can practice to your heart's content. I said, to one mom today, well, if she wants to work with us Monday to Friday and then do more Saturday and Sunday, have at her. And she said, oh, I don't think so. And I said, good choice. Yeah, they definitely need a break on the weekend. But if it turns out that you need to make up a bit of time, then there is that possibility to do so. So yes, flexible in that regard, but the teacher will still have all of that data coming into the tablet because it is cloud-based. He or she may not be looking at it on the weekend. So, we can't expect our teachers to be ready 24/7 to be analyzing everything, but certainly when the teacher is back again, looking at the tablet, all of that information that was done at a more flexible time is going to be right there and can be commented upon when he or she talks to the student next. Good question. All right, from Lolly, curious about your observations with the young students that are now doing the at-home learning versus their experience of in-person with the school community there at EA. Awesome question. So we had that good fortune of being able to really have a great science experiment going when our kids transitioned, out of COVID-19 necessity from their in-school programs into the online world. And we're, again, so grateful for the Arrrowsmith program for working so hard to enable our students to access these programs online. And it was very interesting. At first we thought, well, are they going to be more distracted? Is it going to be hard for them to maintain that connection with their teacher? And I, of course, had my own little guinea pig at home with my son, and I watched him, and he was actually far more focused than he was at school. And I think really it was because, back to Ken's point, you continue to be my star student, Ken, is that the teacher is right there pretty much in your face, right? Not in a bad way, but the teacher's there, and when the teacher is with you, it's just the two of you together. It's not, oh, let me look over here and, oh, hi, oh, you're on your way to the bathroom. Okay, we'll see you later. And, oh, look, I haven't seen that person in a while. I'll talk to you later. There's none of that that's happening. It's just you two. And so certainly my son, and we heard that probably from about 90% of the students or from the family members, that the students transitioned very well to online. There's always going to be some that, would really benefit solely from being in a school and really crave, a high degree of social interaction in order to be really successful. And we do have schools for that. Our schools, barring any changes in the government, will be open, at least here in Vancouver, in the fall. That's certainly the plan. And so we do have that option, especially for local families at this time. Certainly my son has said that he misses his friends, but when we get into next year and we think about opportunities, there's going to be parent education built into this, opportunities for the kids to connect. My favorite so far has been one mom, and this remains to be seen if it'll happen, but I could tell she really has been a parent, auxiliary mom in the past, and she said, I know what we're going to do. As soon as we can fly on airplanes again, we're going to get all the kids together. We're going to find a place. We'll rent out the whole hotel, and we're just going to have a big party together and meet each other. And I said, you're hired. You make that happen. We'd be happy to have that happen. So anytime we can promote social interaction, totally happy to do that. But short answer is that our kids have been very successful in the transition to online. Otherwise, we would not be offering the programs that I'm talking to you about right now. And David said, a good question, is there an assessment prior to taking the 8-week course or the halftime course? The assessment for those courses comes from the data that the students provide. So they all start working at a similar level, the two-handed clock level for the symbol relations exercise, but they will then move through that program at their own rate. So all of the assessment comes from us looking at where they are compared to the benchmarks of the Arrrowsmith program exercise. And then at the halfway point, you do get feedback in terms of a report that you get, again, at the end of the program, and then we'd be able to tell you our suggestions for carrying on. So there's no formal, full Arrrowsmith program assessment, because that assessment is really to see which exercises we would work on and at which time. We know that a student is going to start with symbol relations. We know that 99% of the world could benefit from working on reasoning, processing speed, working memory, attention control. So even if you were a person who, was doing fine in school or, quite happy in your job or what have you, but just wanted a boost to that capacity, you can't go wrong by doing this kind of exercise. And if it is more of a mild weakness for you, you'll just move through the program a little bit faster. So it would never be, a waste of time in that regard. Same is the case with the halftime course. You would start, the halftime course, yes, there is a programming assessment to look at that because we're working on 4 different cognitive exercises and we want to tailor it specifically to that particular student. When it comes to the part-time program, because we do start with the symbol relations exercise, it's similar to that 8-week intensive program where you start and all of the data really dictates the progress that you're making. The only difference there in the part-time program is once you do finish the symbol relations exercise, and it really, when you finish, that could be a question, just depends on your age, how fast you've moved through the program, the goals you have for yourself or for your child. But once that is finished, that's when we would do a full programming assessment to find our next exercise. So that's when, you'd either look at joining a half-day program, or we would do that 2 half-day programming assessment to say, okay, we finished with symbol relations, what's next on the list? And then we would start that person on that new exercise in the part-time program. Jennifer asks, is there any kind of trait in a child who will show more success in the program? What I mean is, I remember once I visited Eaton Arrrowsmith Academy in Redmond, that's our school in Redmond, Washington, and they told me that my child who does not follow through and is highly defiant might not be a good fit. And yeah, that's what I mean about sometimes there's a time in someone's life where we are the best match, and sometimes it's a not yet. It doesn't have to be not forever, but unfortunately, at least as far as we know, the only way to get the brain to change is if you actually commit to doing the work. So we need to have students with enough attention control to sit, engage, to take feedback from the instructors, to do the exercises in the way that we ask, because everyone we work with is a very intelligent person. There's no denying that. But sometimes with intelligence, and especially with years of working a certain way, this is neuroplasticity that sometimes can be seen as a negative, where we've really ground in particular ways of doing things, and we need to unlearn those if we're actually going to strengthen particular brain networks. So, it's not so effective when we explain how to do something and then it must be done a certain way, and someone says, well, no, I think I'm going to do it this way instead. Then we're not the right fit at this particular time. But as we know, people change and grow over time. So I'm always happy to revisit. Sometimes I've been working with a family for 5 or 6 years, and it's only that 6th year that we're actually the best fit for each other. Maturity does come into play when it comes to understanding of why this would be a benefit for someone's life. Sometimes we need to, as I was saying before, start with other programs that are less I guess physically and mentally, there's less of a need for physical and mental engagement in order to start the brain to change and to grow. And there certainly are programs like that out there. They're not, in my opinion anyway, not quite as comprehensive as the suite of exercises that the Arrrowsmith program offers, but they're a wonderful start and can lay the pathway for real success in our programs. So I hope that helps. What kind of technology, Mike asked, do we need to use to do the program at home with our kids? Great question. And I will certainly send you a link to the online programs page, because we do lay it out there for you as well, just as a way to remember what I'm saying again. But we require the Microsoft Teams platform. So it doesn't matter what kind of computer you're using, as long as you can download the Microsoft Teams app onto your computer. Because that's how you'll access the teachers, get yourself into the classroom every day. And I should say, a week prior to any program starting, once a student is enrolled, the particular teacher will reach out and set up an orientation session with that family, where you sit down, just as a group, and the teacher will help you to navigate through Microsoft Teams. You'll get your very own Eaton Arrowsmith email address and password. You'll get through Microsoft Teams. You'll log into the Arrowsmith program online portal, get to know a little bit about that starting exercise or exercises, depending on which program you've joined. Lots of chance to ask questions, to feel comfortable and confident, so that when the program does start the following week, you're ready for it. So that's Microsoft Teams is important. Also, if you're working on the symbol relations exercise, you will need to have either a keyboard or something called a numeric keyboard. And I actually happen to have one here. I can just show you. Can you see that guy? So if you don't have the numbers on your keyboard on the right-hand side of your keyboard, because, like, for example, I'm looking at my laptop now and my numbers are actually right across the top. That doesn't work so well with what we're trying to achieve with the symbol relations exercise. So you can buy one of these guys, about $20 online, computer store, Amazon, whatever you'd like, and you just plug it into your computer, and then you've got all of the numbers at the ready. Because once you pass through a number of the sub-levels of each symbol relations exercise, we're working on a level that really strengthens your speed of processing, and you start to have to type in the numbers of the clock faces. So you might see a clock face, and you'll know, oh, the answer to that is 9:16, and you'll need to type that in as quickly as you can. And over time, you'll see your speed improving, your accuracy improving, until we get to a place where we'll say, well, you've really gone as fast as humanly possible. Let's move you on to a clock that has 3 hands, etc. And you start moving on from there. So you need to be able to have that numeric keypad there at the ready. There's also a couple of links on our online programs page to typing programs where you can practice to get ready for our program. It's not like we expect you to be an expert typist when you join us, but certainly if you practice or have your child practice, just being really familiar with where your hands should go for the numbers, it allows you to keep your eyes on the screen and your fingers on the numbers, and it just enables you to go faster. Sometimes I get a question though, well, what if my child can't go that fast, or what if they have some motor difficulties that doesn't allow for that? Well, there are ways of ensuring that we can tell the students' progress by asking them to say, the answers out loud at times as well. So there are alternatives, but certainly we don't do that all of the time. So it is really advantageous to have that numeric keypad on the side there in some shape or form. Oh, another piece too is if you need a mouse for sure, but it's always best to have a mouse that has a left and a right click button. I know I'm so technologically advanced by saying click button. I'm sure that's not what it's called, but I think you know what I mean, because when you get to one of the sub-levels, you will be zooming in to draw the hands on that clock. So important to have that if you don't already. So that is that question. Our son is 17, but behind in maturity and has executive function issues. My question was really focused on finding out if the time he spends with Arrowsmith will apply to his formal education. Does he receive high school credit? I apologize, that does make sense. we have found that there is an online provider that we work with in the United States called Market Square Education. And I'm happy to send you a link to their website, or you can always look it up. And last year, when some of our students, pre-online days, when they were working on Arrowsmith, Market Square was able to talk with the government and find a way for some of the cognitive credits or the cognitive exercises to be transferred into actual credits. It's not an everyday occurrence. It hasn't been with our classes always in Canada, but we are moving in that direction. So all I can say, I don't want to tell you something that is not necessarily 100% the truth, is that there's a good chance. Hopefully that helps, Ken. And then Jennifer said, is the program all online now? Yeah, and does the parent have to be there to make sure our child is on and working on the program all the time and not browsing online? Oh yes, I've had experience with my son as well. Yep, the tabs have to be closed, all of the other one. There's even ways to block certain websites from being shown just to reduce the temptation. But you do not have to do this program with your child. You can't. You're not Arrowsmith program teachers. We take that right off your plate. Your job is to be their #1 motivator and coach, to cheer them on, to make sure that they are there, ready to go, well fed, ideally having had some kind of exercise beforehand or incorporating exercise within their day. Make sure that they take the breaks when we give the breaks. The schedule is all on the online programs page on the Eaton Arrowsmith website. It depends on your child. Sometimes, with my son, he was actually pretty good. I was actually, pretty occupied working on admissions meetings at the time when he was doing his work. My husband had a little bit more flexibility in his schedule, so he could check in on him, but he's not an Arrowsmith program expert by any means. So, he would just sometimes refocus him, but it really is a connection. It's a virtual classroom. That teacher is there all the time, reading the data that comes through, so that the student and the teacher are very much connected the whole way through. Nini, is there a maximum amount of students in an online course, and how will the teacher's time be divided between the students? Yes, so we do have a cap to each class. If there is one teacher, the cap is 7 students. If there's a teacher and a teaching assistant, then there is a maximum of 10 students in the class. And the teacher, it depends on the program. If it's a program where it's the similar relations exercise only, then the teacher will be moving through the class just as needed, honestly. If a student needs some more time, they'll make sure that some of the other students are up and running, and then we'll go back to that particular student. Sometimes there might be a few students who need exactly the same thing at exactly the same time. And so there is that opportunity to have a few of them on the screen at once, and then the teacher can share his or her screen, and they can have a little teaching mini lesson and then go back at it. But no matter what, that teacher has their tablet with all of the data coming in. So it's not like, oh, I wonder what so-and-so's doing. I haven't physically seen him or her for 2 minutes. Nope, it's right there on that tablet. So always a very, very close connection. Let's see. Oh, great. Thank you, Chris, for putting that in the chat. There's the tech requirements there. David asked, my daughter took a MSS. Oh, you definitely have been a parent of Arrowsmith. So MSS is our lingo for the motor symbol sequencing exercise. So it's 2 brain exercises that really complement our ability to express ourselves in writing, to track with our eyes, to be able, it actually really targets the speech as well, our brain's ability to create motor plans, which is a fancy word, a way of saying, the same sequence of letters together every time when you're spelling a word. That particular program in Toronto is still offered. You can always Google the motor symbol sequencing remote program. It's offered out of Toronto. And that is a program where you check in once a week. We will be offering the motor symbol sequencing exercise as a choice during our part-time, our at-home part-time program. So, for that 1 hour a day, Monday to Thursday, that the program is offered, you can be doing motor symbol sequencing. I should say that particular program is one that comes with homework, and I'm sure that David is familiar with that. Because that area requires us to use our hand either very quickly or very slowly, depending on which of the complementary exercises a student is working on. So our hand ends up fatiguing before the brain area receives enough stimulation. So we work on it during the day in class, and then there is some follow-up homework. But that's the only exercise where there's any homework that is given. So that's your answer there. Thank you, Chris, for adding that. Now, am I missing any questions, or that looks like I've gotten them all. Does anyone else want to write anything to me, or did I miss anything? Please feel free to write in the chat. But know also that I'm always reachable at admissions@eatonarrowsmith.com. If you scroll up, you can see that in the chat, or you can call us at 604-264-8327. We've got a wonderful office manager named Christina, and she will help you out and get us a meeting scheduled just as soon as possible. I'm looking, hopefully I know what I'm doing, and I'm trying to see if there's any more messages. Oh, wait, oh, can I share tuition info? Happy to. So it is online again on that online programs page, but for the at-home cognitive intensive program, the 8-week program, that is 5,000 Canadian. And that's when I'm going to look and see if I see any Americans up there on my screen. That's when you're doing the cheer that it's in Canadian, because for anyone whose currency is a little bit stronger than our Canadian dollar, we do get a little bit of a break because we are a Canadian company. So 5,000 for the 8-week at-home cognitive intensive program. The at-home part-time program is 6,000 Canadian, and that takes you from October to June of a calendar year, and the at-home half-day program is 18,500 Canadian, and that's 4 cognitive exercises, the complete Arrowsmith program assessment, and it lasts from September to June of each year. And if you are on the online programs page, do take some time and navigate the drop-down menus, because our calendars are there, our course schedules are there, of course the tuition is there, description of the program, so that you have that in your mind when we're having our own discussion privately. So there we go. I don't think I see any more questions. So I guess I will sign off. And as I said at the beginning, this has been recorded so that you didn't have to feel like you remembered everything. Oh, a couple more questions, but we will send that link out to you for sure. Let's just say, oh, you're welcome, Mike. Jennifer says, how is a child assessed before acceptance? So I'm going to use the word assessment of fit. It does not mean that a child needs to do a test in order to be accepted into our school. Our children have been through enough tests, enough scrutiny, especially with learning challenges that can be very performance, anxiety producing. The best information I can get comes from talking with, with a particular family, finding out, the history of their child, where their strengths are, where those particular barriers are in terms of their learning, where a boost could be necessary, or if it's an adult, if they're comfortable sharing some of their thoughts as well, and really their goals for a more independent, successful future. That's where I get the best information, not to single out moms in any way, and believe me, I have so much respect for our dads, but it's often the moms who will do a lot of the legwork and come and have, do, of course, and with the family's love for their child, really want that, to see happiness, to see, they really want their child back. I've heard that so many times from families moving through our program that, they thank us, but they shouldn't be. They should be thanking themselves for being curious and for thinking of an opportunity where they can really get to the root of these challenges and grow that capacity, or enable their children to grow that capacity. And, they'll send messages saying, I have my child back. Finally, the light is back in their eyes. It seems like the fog has lifted for them. And that's all the things that we ever need, is to really see that. So Jennifer, in terms of acceptance, it's really a conversation. If a child has had a psychoeducational assessment, in the past, then we're of course happy to look at that and to have a conversation about how those results would link up to what we would be working on with that particular child or adult, any past report cards, anything that you think really paints a good picture of this person for us. There are some times when from a conversation, I am still, not completely sure whether we're the best fit at this particular time. And so I'll be honest about that. I'll also be honest if I know we're not a fit at this time, as sometimes as hard as that is to hear. I would rather be honest with you than waste someone's time, energy, emotional well-being, and of course, finances. There's always a chance for us to connect up again in the future. But if I'm a little unsure, then we can always arrange an online visit, so to speak, where I can help the student connect with a teacher, to have the teacher work with that student to see whether their engagement level is enough to really be worthy of this investment at this time. So that's always a possibility. And let's say that all is good and we're both excited to have you join. Then I connect you up with our registrar, and she will send you the enrollment documents and the tuition fee schedule. Families then have a week to look that over, to complete that, and to return it to us, and a child or an adult space is saved for that particular week while you're making that decision. You won't give it away. Sometimes if a family is just hearing about us and we have a program starting in the next few days, well, we might not be able to give you that week, and we hope you understand, but we also want to have you starting on time with us. So, but that's our general process. I think Jennifer says, I think a more specific question is how is a child's area of weakness assessed to create a suitable treatment to target that weakness especially? So when it comes to a half-day program, when someone has a full programming assessment done, we're able to see exactly where they fall upon a continuum of this being a more severe weakness, more of a moderate or a mild weakness, or not even a weakness at all, which means we're not going to waste that child's time working on that particular exercise or that adult's time, because that's one of their strengths. And so students begin with us, and then we document their rate of change, and we're able to see the progress rate that they go through, how accurate they are, when they are achieving their milestones, and tailor the program from that time. But that initial programming assessment for any program where we're working on an exercise other than symbol relations, but if that's your question for, well, how do we know if symbol relations is a good fit? If you're talking to me and saying, it's really hard for my child to be able to engage, to use executive functioning, to plan, to problem solve, or he or she can read every word, but reading comprehension is very challenging, or I'll teach him something and it seems to be there one day and not the next, or it's hard to know for my child when he or she says something to friends, why they are puzzled by that action. It seems like there's a disconnect. Anything that has anything to do with cause and effect, reasoning, speed of understanding things, like I said, planning or problem solving, being able to sequence. Some of our students struggle with sequence of speech, even sequence of letters, because this brain network has its hand, so to speak, or its neurons in so many areas of our lives. This is always a great one to start, and that's why we don't do an initial assessment in that particular area. We get started and we're able to see progress, as the students move along, and pass that on to you through all of the data that is collected. David, can the 8-week symbol relations course start at any time? My answer for you, and Chris has answered it as well, thank you, is yes and no. It certainly starts quite frequently. Within our summer months, we do have a number of classes available. For example, in a few days' time, because it happens to be the summer when I'm talking to you now, we have 5 different classes starting. When we get to the fall, we'll have, I think it's 3 or 4 classes within the course of a school year. Now, this next bit is a little complicated, so hang on for a second. I'm going to explain it to you, and you can nod if you've understood it. That when we get to the school year, what we're doing is not having separate classes for the 8-week cognitive intensive program where all of the students in that class will be doing that particular program. They actually have the benefit of joining a class of our half-day students. So there'll be a couple of spaces in every half-day class running throughout the course of the year that we have available for the 8-week program. So, you know, say I wanted to join the cognitive intensive program that was for 8 weeks. You know, for example, let's say we had a class that started mid-September, we would be joining our at-home half-day program that started in September, staying with that group, working on our symbol relations for 8 weeks, and then being done. That the other students would carry on until the end of the year, but we popped in for 8 weeks to do our particular program. And that is all on the website, but if you ever have any questions, just ask. Jennifer would like to know, how long is a day, hours in a day for a part-time student? 1 hour per day, Jennifer, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is when we're offering the program. We start October the 5th this particular year. Of course, if you happen to be looking at this recording in a different year, it might be a different day, but generally we start in October and we end beginning of June. And students work on that particular one particular cognitive exercise for the whole course of the year. We look at where they're at the end of that year, and either they're continuing with us the following year, or if they've made sufficient progress through our assessments that they're finished with that, then we can look at doing further assessment to look at the very next exercise that they'll work on with us. So did I get to them all? Let's see. All right, I'll look at the time. You have been so gracious with your time. This has been an hour and, I think I've got that right, an hour and 25 minutes. Thank you very much. And I've still got my voice, so thank you. But if you do have any other questions, you know how to reach me. Admissions@eatonarrowsmith.com, or you can always, I'll write, or maybe I'll get Chris, since you're doing some writing for me, to write my own personal email. It's shewsel@eatonarrowsmith.com. Happy for you to reach me that way as well, or you can always call us at 604-264-8327. But do check out www.eatonarrowsmith.com and search under our programs for the online programs page. It's got all of the information there. And I am really excited to talk with you, hopefully each personally, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.